I would like to share Korean case on career development, actually system and situation in Korean university and colleges. Actually, we just finished that research on career development context from 21 colleges last year. Actually, we just finished the early this year, so I would like to share with you. Okay, this is not a specific case. That's for representing the Korean situation. Okay, actually, Korean labor market situation is quite hard. Okay, say college graduate unemployment issues has been raised since 2000, early 2000. See, in Korea, generally, the unemployment rate is very low, like 3 or 4% among all population. But for the youth, especially college graduate, the unemployment rate is just higher than 10%. Okay. Why is that so high for the youth, especially for college education, educated youth? We can say that there is a structural problem that is mismatch between the decreased jobs, especially decreased decent jobs, and increase the number of college students. So it is a mismatch between supply and demand of human resources, highly educated human resources. So since 2000, the Korean government has been supported very strongly to colleges to increase the employment rate of college graduate. So they either just invest or provide the government the financial support to university, or to just basically they just simply put the money on career centers. But the problem is that since after 10 years of effort, there has been almost no significant change in terms of employment rate of college graduate. So rather, Korean college graduate has to be faced with harsh screening and employment preparation for college years. But still, they are struggling with finding jobs. I'm sorry, but it's too small letter. But I had the research on the relationship between the proportion of professional jobs or the entire jobs. The vertical X is the proportion of the professional jobs, and then the horizontal X is the proportion of college graduate among the youth from 25 to 34 age cohort. There are 6 countries together. See, I don't know whether you can see the Korea is like this. Korea is the quite outlier. Okay, the horizontal X. There's the Korea has a very high proportion of college graduate among the youth. Let's say almost approaching 70%. But the proportion of professional jobs, good jobs, so-called good jobs among all jobs, is about just higher than 20%. Compared to other countries like Denmark or Germany, it is different, quite reversed. Say, Germany is the proportion of college graduates is less than 30%. But the proportion of professional jobs reached over higher than 40%. So it shows that the Korean youth employment problem rise from the structural mismatch from the development of job structure and development of human resources. Okay, so it shows that the problem is not easy to be solved. It's very difficult. Either we can increase the number of decent job or decrease the number of college graduate. But either case is not easy to achieve. Okay, I will ask which one is easier or to solve. To decrease the number of college graduates or to increase the number of good jobs. Okay, that's the problem that we have to deal with. Okay, see here, I said that the trend change, the change of the proportion of employment rate of the college graduate. Okay, since 2008, 2015. During these years, government support a lot on the college education to increase the employment rate, but it didn't work at all. Okay, it's no significant change at all. Okay, especially the good job, such as to cover the health insurance. We can say that the jobs to cover health insurance and employment insurance is good jobs rather than those who that don't cover the insurance. So focusing on the good job to cover health insurance and employment insurance. In terms of that job, the employment in that jobs, the proportion has been increasing at all. Okay, or sometimes it's decreasing. So it shows that no matter how strongly the push the college and the university, okay, that university only cannot increase the employment rate. You know. Okay, that was my slide. It's almost same. Okay, so see, look at this. This is the limited increase in preferred jobs. Actually, preferred jobs means that like jobs in public sector, public service, and teachers, and those who are working in financial jobs, like we call it the preferred job that the college graduate like to have. Okay, the number of jobs and proportion of jobs of preferred jobs has been decreasing, rather decreasing. Again, the same thing. So with this kind of difficult labor market condition, Korean student has to have more complex, more difficult task for career development than other countries. Okay, so as I told you, I explained already, they have very intensive employment, preparation and anxiety. Nowadays, Korean youth, like all these youth, are very anxious. They're very worried about on their future, their job and the employment. And in addition that, there are many career selection tasks during school, their college years, like leave of absence due to military service. Okay, so in some sense, it just cut it down from school and then go to the army service. It's a big deal to a college student. Okay. And also, sometimes they have to take leave of absence for employment preparation. Sometimes to take internship or to just to go to study for English to the States or other countries. Okay, and also transfer to other universities or to transfer other departments to change their major. Okay, and also, even though compared to other countries, the dropout rate is quite low, but still it has been increasing in Korea, college dropout rate, okay? And also that they just postpone college graduation, even though they fulfill everything for their graduation. They fulfill the credit requirement, but still they don't want to go out. Once you get out the college, it is more difficult to get good jobs. Okay, so in school, Just they prepare more. Okay. So it is new phenomena in Korea. See, once it is in Korea, it is very difficult to get into good university. But before, once you get into the college, there is not that big problems in terms of career development task. But nowadays, students, they just went through very difficult condition to get into good university or university. But in addition to that, they have to go through all these difficult career development tasks. So they must be unhappy. Okay, they have very difficult condition to deal with, and also this is very Korean or Asian phenomena. I can say that cliff of management. I don't know. I'm not sure that whether you can understand. You can say management cliff. By this, I mean that before college education in Korea, kids are very, very well managed by schools, by parents, by teachers. But once in college, just suddenly, they have to be like very well, grown up. They have to deal with by themselves everything. Everybody said that you are college student, so you do by yourself. But they are not used to do that. They are not ready to do that. So they have big difficulty to deal with that management, self-management processing. Okay, and also we could see that very, very differentiation among students. Students have very different career preparation, career path, career maturity. So it is very difficult to say that this is the typical Korean student career development program. This is not. If we have 10 students, we have 10 kinds of career patterns, career situation. So and also we consider the disparity among groups. Okay, so these are the things that Korean student and Korean university are facing with. Okay, so these career change experience in school years Korean student. Okay, here leave of absence. Okay, so this means this leave of absence rate is more than 30%. This is not included the Army service. If we put the Army service again, it's much higher than that. So most of the reason for that leave of absence is just to prepare our career exploration. Okay. So in some sense, they have very dynamic period, but other sense, they have very difficult situation. Okay, so here that increasing student with leave of absence experience is a very total. The red line is that the male, and the blue line is called and the total. So it's difficult. You could see a very highly increasing to that. And now that we did some research on the situation of career exploration, so first of all, we can say that during last 10 years, we could see very high expansion of career education in college. Say, for example, in many countries, almost all universities and colleges, they have their own career centers. Okay, before there are only some cases, some universities, they have their own independent office, career development office. They just have a small team. Before, there is small team of career education. But right now, almost all universities and colleges have their own career development center. Even though the size or the spaces can be different, but in any case, they have their own independent office, and there are steps there. So we could see very rapid expansion of career education, as you already mentioned, is I think it is global trend. Okay, just to emphasize on career education in colleges. See, it is very difficult to look at it too far. This is a career education of students. These are from to almost 3,000 students from 21 colleges to universities. It's quite representative of Korean college students. How did you experience these kinds of things? Like first is at the course, career development course, or as a mentoring or counseling like this. Okay, this is the experience proportion rate, and the right is satisfaction. How, if you experience, how satisfied are you with?
What skill?
Five skills. So it's almost either approaching 3 or more than 3. So basically that was quite good. Oh no, I'm sorry, it is 4 scale.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
4 scale. So strongly agree, disagree, strong disagree. It's a 4 scale. So here, this experience of it is by schools. Depending on schools, they have very different figures. Even though that consistently they have that the experience is different, and the satisfaction rate is quite high. Okay. See, this is one of the best. I mean, I just say kind of is promoting myself, but this is one of the best figure that I could find out. This is 21 schools, okay? And we just calculate the difference between the overall satisfaction about schools and their own satisfaction with career development support from the schools. Do you know what I mean? Generally speaking, I like Stanford. Okay, I satisfied with Nanyang Technology on the 4 scale. Okay, I'm quite good. Scale 5, just rate down 4. Okay, but focusing on yourself, how much are you satisfied with your the career service of Nanyang and NTU or Stanford? It's quite different questions. Okay, so the same scale, and we calculate each other. Okay, so all together, except just one school, that's one, right? All schools, students are higher rate on the general satisfaction. Okay, so rather that for their own career development service, there's just lower evaluation than general evaluation. So some schools are the difference is quite high, and some schools difference are small. Even some the only 1 out of 21 schools, only 1 schools, student rate higher than the general satisfactions. See, imagine these among the 21 schools, we can just say we can rank the schools in terms of in terms of what can I say in terms of the social prestige or whatever. See, some elite schools, or the other is just regular, so on. So the more say we can say that elite schools, the difference is higher. Okay, so say a school is one of the best school in Seoul. Students say that, oh, I like the school. I like the school's brand, the reputation. So, but for me, school doesn't do much for my career development. See, these are the average difference is about 0.5, something like that. So it says that I think this figure says a lot. Okay. So even if your school is not that great, but if you care your student individually, the satisfaction rate can be reversed. Okay, so this implies a lot to many staffs, many professors in schools. Okay. So also these are that we can I can classify two clusters that among career support activities. One groups are self-directed activities, and the other groups is school-initiated school activities. We can post two levels. The horizontal X is at self-directed career education activity, and the vertical X is at school-initiated school activities. So some schools are in both axes are very good, very high. Some schools are low. But mostly the self-initiated school activities are quite lower than school-initiated activities. So we can tell that the school's specific character in terms of career development service. And also we see here this core competency, okay? In Korea, we do have KSESA, which is Korea Collegiate Essential Skills Assessment, online test, So, so far since 2009, we have administered KSESA to many students and to many schools. So we could see that we asked that to students, do you have the programs to train your core competency like self-management and interpersonal communication skills, something like that? They said yes, many 70 or 80% students, yes, we do have. But do you utilize, do you participate in their programs? Just, more than 5 or less than 50%. There's big gap. Okay, so the outreach or to promote the programs is very, very important to students. That's the point that we draw the research. These are that, and also we compare two groups. The change of career preparation among 2008 and 2015. Okay. Altogether, we have very big data set, okay, and we have self-rated the assessment test for career maturation, preparation, competency test is online test. So we compare two groups, and we found out that there is no big difference between two groups, even though there was 10 years gap. And even though that government support very strongly and college strongly emphasize that career development. So it is big issue to us. Why? Why is that so? So that is our question to be solved. Okay. So, and also this is a career core competency. See here that KSESA, Korea Collegiate Essential Skills Test, Assessment Test, we have six competencies. One is the communication, in the interpersonal, and global, and self-management, and high-order thinking process, and resource, technology, utilization resource competency, altogether 6 competencies. So, and also we compare that. There's not big difference. Still, we could see that the communication skills is not high. It's quite low. So that we have to deal with, especially the speech competency has not been increased at all, or rather, it has been decreasing. We don't know why. We have to figure out what happened to them. Okay. So, without this kind of research, quantitative analysis, we could set the direction for career education in university and college like this. It's too small. Okay. First of all, we have to change the viewpoint of career education in university and college. It is not just employment preparation, but it's a lifelong integrated perspective of learning. Okay, career education also should be from the lifelong integrative perspective. And also, we could say that we have to find out new indicators to evaluate college performance in terms of career development system. Okay, the government used to use that employment rate. Okay, so how does your school increase the employment rate? If you increase 5% or 10%, we could give you government budget like that as incentive. But as I already showed that it didn't work. So if then, what should we take as indicator to performance of college education in terms of supporting career development of students? So I set up that we have to be something like that, basic competency oriented and value added scale. And also, did your school really have your college life? So we have to ask about the process of college years, not only just to ask about the output, the end of the product of college education, but also we have to care to ask about college education itself, the process itself. So, and also we should emphasize that generic skills, core competency in career educations. And also we have to think about, the career education, focusing on the new and creative career development. Before we just focus that how to prepare students into existing jobs, existing occupations. But yesterday, or the whole global HR conference, we could say that, we could learn that, the existing world of work has been rapidly and dramatically changing. And many jobs and occupation will be diminished shortly, okay? So we have to think about how to deal with new and creative, how to create your own career path, how to design your career, okay? So we have to think about to new and creative career development. So I say first, number one, student-centered service. In Korea, in almost all schools, there are very different office and department to support student development, but they are not communicate each other. They're very sectorial. So we have to think about from the perspective of students themselves. I would like to develop myself like this. So please, schools, whatever the agency, whatever office, department, please help me, okay? So we should see that the service inside school from student, okay, student development focus. And also I would like to suggest that learning-centered perspective is learning. Education, college and universities is not employment preparation institutes. That is the higher education is educational institute, right? Educational institute is supposed to be learning-centered, okay? So it is kind of just back to basic. We have to think about learning, how to learn to design their career, to prepare their school, prepare the education, prepare to their employment. We have to think about how to learn, how to deal that the future or the work, the learning themselves. So we have to focus on learning-centered, and also, as I already mentioned, creative career development. That's the three big directions. Okay. So this is me.
It's 15 years ago. It's sorry to disguise you. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay.
Very good. Thank you so much. I've learned.
Young girl.
Okay, now it's time to have some questions and
Yes.
answers. Okay, please, Professor Kim.
Okay, I found many questions from our board here, so I will ask a few of them.
Sure.
So first one, my question can be for both of you. If there is any governmental support to your institutions, career centers, can you explain for us? So would you start?
Sure. My answer is very quick. There is none.
None.
No government support of our career services and career education program.
How about state?
No, and I work at Stanford University is a private institution, so it's not funded by state or federal funds other than for federal research funds, just like other universities. So funding for career services and other types of programs come from other sources of revenues, not from government funding or state funding.
So may I interrupt? So your main job is fundraising. Also.
Well, no, the university does support the career education office with a budget. So we do a little bit of fundraising, but it's we're fortunate at Stanford that I don't have to do that much of that in order to support my programs and operation.
Okay, thank you.
Similar to NTU, we are not a private university, so we do have government that subsidize us on the running of the universities. Of course, this is coming from a sum of money, and I get my sum of money directly from the university, from the budget. So it's not directly from the government. I work as part and parcel of the university overall budget. So I do have to justify all my expenses, all my program, to make sure that it is worthwhile and it benefits the student.
Okay, thank you for your explanation. So mainly your university supports your career center.
Right.
So my second question is from...
May I ask a little bit?
Please.
So if then, how do you have the performance indicate to evaluate your performance? Just both of you. How to evaluate your performance?
So we look at student destinations.
Student destination.
We also look at student participation in career education programs, in their engagement, and also in internship programs, and then in satisfaction and their own outcomes.
Is it increasing? I mean, improving?
Oh, yes. Particularly student engagement. I think student outcomes in terms of destinations has always been strong at Stanford, and so we continue to be strong. But for engagement, that was the area that we needed to improve quite a bit in the last few years. And since we adapted our new model of connections and communities for meaningful work, we have dramatically increased our engagement numbers.
This is good. Okay.
In NTU, the overall performance indicators is obviously in our student satisfaction survey, and the career services, or we call it the career guidance, is one of the factors. So we poll the entire students, and then we get a satisfaction rate from the student. So since we started our data gathering in 2014, so the last 3 years, it has been a tremendous jump. So the things that I've explained, the programs that I put in, obviously resonates well with the students. So the response from them is, yes, I am. I either very strongly agrees that I've been helped by the career services, or I have benefited. So that is the overall indices. In our respective programs that are offered, we always ask before and after. One of the things as an educational institution, we always ask learning outcome. So when you participate in the learning, in the education, have you improved on the outcome? So every of our program, we ask the student learning outcome. So as in all evaluation, if it's good, we continue to be better. If it's no good, we find ways to do something better. If not, we'll discontinue and we find other ways of doing that. So it is an ongoing evaluation assessment process.
Okay, maybe next question can be related with these answers.
Yep.
People ask me about, you've just told us developed many career programs.
Yes.
And you tested it out for a few years. And when you tested out your programs, do you approach like a freshman year's program or senior year's program, or what kinds of approach we're collecting?
Our entire community development approach segments students based on their class years and then their majors and their affiliations of their group affiliations, as well as their interests in types of industries. And within those communities, we develop lots of programs that serve the needs and interests and special questions that students have within those. So, for example, we have a freshman and sophomore community, and we have staff who are assigned to that community, and they develop all of their programs specific for freshmen. And their programs look very different from the programs for seniors or for PhDs or for master's students. And those are different communities. So that allows us to create a much more specialized approach for students, and then they get to experience that evolution together as a community, and they get to ask one another questions. And when we developed this community approach, we prioritized engagement of freshmen, which has not been historically a model for us or for many universities. And the idea there is that if we do a really good job at enhancing students' career development skills and have them reflect about what they want to do and early, that by the time they graduate, they would have developed those skills in a way that allow them to transition in a much more effective way.
Specifically for NTU, it depends on different program. So at a very, say, basic level, when we do career coaching, obviously, whether it's one-to-one or one-to-group, the feedback is instantaneous. So the moment that we finish our coaching session, we ask the student, have I done a good job? So we got instantaneous feedback, and that is for every coaching. So that is a very, very objective, direct, quantitative measure. Have I been performing? So the coaches will also self-evaluate, or maybe certain areas that I continue to do well because the student endorsed what I'm doing, certain areas which I have not been doing, I continue to improve. So we do this for year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4. And likewise for the career consultant. So that is for the direct personal intervention. The rest of the other program, if we offered it to specific year, at the end of the program, the student will give us direct feedback. Have I benefited? Where have I benefited? If I have not, what are the areas that we can improve? So we do this for year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4. Some of the programs are open to all years. So for example, a career fair or a networking session that we involve all. When we ask the student for feedback, obviously the year 1 will comment, I have benefited because of this, I've not benefited because of that. So we are very intense in terms of feedback and getting the student, have I done enough? So this is very much institutionalized. It's exactly the same as what we do in the academia. Have we been teaching well? Have you learned? So there's a strong emphasis right now on the outcome of what we do rather than the specific process. The outcome will tell us, have we meet our objective for where we start? If we have met, how to make it even better. If we have not, it goes back to the drawing board. So this constantly reinforce this very push to become better and better and better. And it resonates in the student satisfaction. Now they know that universities have got their interest in mind. This is something where Dr. Miso talks about. Student-centric means, have I been doing this that is of benefit to you? So if we turn it around and if the student are our stakeholder, have I done well? Have I teach well? Have I prepared you well? Have I done this so and so well? If we have not, tell us why we have not, we will improve. If we have done well, then give us a compliment as an encouragement, and we continue to do more so that we get more encouragement from them.
I see. So you reach out to the students in early phase.
Yes.
So not only you care for themselves, but also they can accumulate their own data or their own self-paths during their college years. So they can be really nice data for themselves.
Yeah.
So another question is from our teachers. In universities, there are professional advisors. Like me also, when I teach my students, I'm also taking care of 15 students as an personal advisors. So how differentiate advisors' roles and career center coaches' roles or consultants' roles? Would you mind explaining for us?
Sure.
Right now, we have so many burdens. As a
Of course, in general, all my faculty colleagues, the professors, they are close to their student, obviously. They taught them and they become as friends as a personal level. Obviously, if they got problem with their work, they will go back to their professor. So at a very personal level, there is that engagement. And to their best of their abilities, whenever that they have got issues, my faculty colleague, I'm sure, will be able to intervene at the front end. However, there could be other questions that concerns career, that concerns, oh, I'm not too sure really what I want to do. This is where in NTU, the career office resources comes in. So either the coaches, because my coaches are all assigned to individual schools. So the coaches and my faculty work almost as a team, right? So if there is a student, or if you really want to know more about yourself, your awareness, whatever, so-and-so from the career coach will be able to give you that in-depth. So there is this cross-reference of services. Then my career consultant, which is also part and parcel of the team, will point them towards, all right, now I am more aware, I wanted to pursue a particular job or a particular areas in a particular industry domain. And the consultants will come in to do. The consultants are not school-based, they are across. So they move from schools to school to talk specifically to students who are interested and want to understand more about working in that organization. So if in one sense, any particular NTU student will have direct help from the professors. The school also has got student well-being where they can approach them on other areas, maybe even on coping with stress. So there's that level of help. Career, definitely from a career office. And in fact, sometimes I felt that our students are privileged. There are so many people to help them. I always challenge them. If you need help, there's always help. Many of the times, sometimes they just felt that, okay, I'm alone, they doesn't want to seek help. So it's a two-way thing. We also want to make sure that the student approach us, but we can't force the student from there. So we give that responsibility back to the student. We are always here. Come and talk to us.
So as an advisor, we can guide the students. Oh, if you have that kind of career questions, you can go to Career Center. If you have a learning problem, we recommend go to the Learning Center.
In fact, we make it so simple because we have a portal.
Yes.
And it's on their smartphone. They book their career coach on the smartphone.
Smartphone even there.
And so we let the student choose their destination. They can come to my office for the career coaching, or the career coaches go down to the school.
So in IT, all they can access through the smartphone.
Yes, through the smartphone. Booking of the career coach for a one-to-one session for about 45 minutes if they want to, or they can drop by just to bounce certain ideas, etc.
Okay, thank you. And how about?
I think in an ideal scenario, every single student who is enrolled in a university would have a community of advisors and coaches and teachers who are there to support and to challenge and to open doors. What we try to teach our students is to develop their own advisory boards, to think of yourself like a company, like a startup. Every company, every startup has an advisory board, a group of people who have knowledge of things that you don't know, and whose job is to sit around the boardroom and to advise you on on decisions to make. Excuse me. What if each student was kind of like that company that has an advisory board? And when I imagine that advisory board, I would imagine a professor being around that table. I would imagine a career coach. I would imagine an academic advisor, a personal advisor, a mentor who could be an alumnus. I would imagine a relative or someone who is a personal contact who has their own connections and their own influences. Every student can develop that advisory board on their own. In an ideal world, that would be the ideal situation. I do not have that ideal situation even at Stanford today, where every single student has an advisory board, but we try to teach from that concept. The days of having only one person doing everything for students, so teach them, advise them, coach them, feed them, to all of that, are way gone. You saw that in my presentation, that it's at least in the United States, in the early 1900s. That's when we had the role of a faculty or of a professor being everything to that person. They were the professor, they were the advisor, they were the house father or mother who lived in the dormitory and helped them out. But things have evolved since then, where what we have learned in American universities is that learning outside of the classroom is just as important, if not more important, than learning inside the classroom. So therefore, the university has to invest in infrastructure outside of the classroom in order to support that learning, and therefore provide these advisory structures that allow students to choose and pick, and in order to create their own advisory boards. The challenge is that it's very difficult to get students to be proactive in creating those advisory boards, because just that idea of doing so is very entrepreneurial in its own way. So entrepreneurial students who we have are very good with that, and they might do it informally. They might not even know. They go and seek help and go to office hours and meet people, and they're constantly nurturing that advisory community around them. But that is not the majority of students anywhere around the world. So that goes back to us as a higher education community, as career centers, to try to figure out a way to scale that approach, to make it possible, to make it less intimidating. Are there technologies that allow them to just pick members and create an advisory board so that they can move forward? I think that's really what's going to help a lot of students develop those types of skills and connections and find opportunities. And in fact, I think that's sometimes what separates the experience of students in elite institutions versus the rest, is that in elite institutions, that process tends to happen for many students kind of organically, because they are in their environment. They might meet an alum, or they are pulled into networks easily. They may not call them advisory boards, but they are connected to privilege and to people, maybe through their own family connections or others. And they connect with people who open doors for them or who give them sound advice.
Thank you for your mentioning about the entrepreneurship. So there is one question is coming up. Do you have any program to promote entrepreneurship for students? Because in Asian, students are so, in a way, not proactive.
We have a major on entrepreneurship.
Major
It's very popular.
entrepreneurship.
Very popular.
So major department you approached?
Right. So what happens under the undergraduate education, the student can choose to study a major in entrepreneurship. So let's say whether they're an engineer, by College of Engineering, undergraduate in engineering, they can major in entrepreneurship. So it's already embedded into the system. So the student who are interested to become an
In curriculum.
entrepreneur, in curriculum.
I
So they
see.
can, just like you major, so let's say for example, in engineering, you major in business or major in economics or whatever. So that is strongly encouraged. In fact, the interdisciplinary part of undergraduate education has now been strongly emphasized. Again, gone are the days where you are just simply a focus on a particular, in a disruptive economy, in a IR4 where everything converges, you can no longer just simply focus on a particular skill. So back to your question, NTU student can major in entrepreneurial, and we also has got a separate setup called Intuitive, which encourages startup and incubators. And of course, this is a part of NTU to encourage for them to start up the company and helping them to get the help, very similar to your setup over here. This is a strong encouragement. And the student can also do up to 1 year of, we call it the internship, 1 full year outside in Silicon Valley, in certain part of the world, 1 full year immersed into the program as part and parcel of that. They don't have to do leave of absence. It's part and parcel for them to do. So they typically go either in the penultimate year or the year 4, spend 1 year overseas, learning, tutored under startup, and they come back and they can start up their own organization. So the best way to learn about startup is to work in a startup environment. That is the fundamental. The best way to learn in a particular environment is to go and spend 10 weeks of internship, 20 of internship in the environment, and then you come back and you prepare yourself based on that. So we are able to embed the startup and the entrepreneurship as part and parcel of their curriculum to help them to come along. So that is our approach to encourage entrepreneur in the Singapore context, not just simply in NTU. Some of my other fellow universities also have a similar setup to encourage entrepreneur.
Can I ask
Please do.
related question?
Yes.
So you said the 1 year,
1 year.
1 year
Internship.
that internship overseas. Do you have a sister or brother university college? I mean, partnership,
Connection, liaison.
partnership university?
We just place them into an organization. We find them the organization and we put them
You
into the
do.
organization.
You do.
No, another of my department.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see.
right. For me, I can put them into an internship whereby it is a startup organization. So that is purely part and parcel of their overseas internship. I do it also on my end for internship if the student wants to do that. Yeah. So all the students find their own startup company and do their internship as part and parcel of their curriculum. So different ways of different. So we have got several approach and not just simply approach. And that is important because it doesn't, we do not everything want to rest upon a particular path or a channel. We open up multi-channel for the student to do. And it's not easy to spend 1 year overseas.
No.
Expenses, everything. So that particular department that we have help them to do the financing so that they can spend 1 year.
So what kind of department then?
We call it Intuitive.
Intuitive.
Yeah, it's our private incubator. It's a separate company formed by NTU to develop this for entrepreneurs who want to start up. And if they are entrepreneurs, they also can, let's say they graduate, they come back to this department, they will help them to do the stuff. Very similar to what you're doing. It's just that we're doing it from a university perspective. And this is very common model to some of the leading institutions in other parts of the world. The university becomes the enabler for their graduates to go out to start up a company, bringing them VCs, teaching them how to, on all the legal matters and all the financial matters, to be an entrepreneur. And as important, the Singapore government is encouraging this. If you can't work for an organization, find your own organization, start it up, and be your own boss and move from there. So that is also career, but you need to plan. It's not something that is incidental. All of a sudden, I wake up, I'm graduating today, now I want to be my own boss. We say to them, plan. So it's part and parcel of what I've explained. You have got an entrepreneurial spirit, you have got a DNA, spend 4 years for you to develop, and we will help you to do the network. So the 1 year overseas entrepreneur internship is to help you, to put you into an environment for you to understand how tough it is to be a startup organization. So think twice. So those who pass the test, yes, I'm more determined than ever to start my own company. The rest probably will say, okay, I understand, maybe not immediately, I want to work for a couple of years, but I'm coming back to that. So this is a self-discovery process. This is an understanding. You plan, deliberate, go ahead and do and try it out. And you see how best it is in order to go about doing that.
So in terms of the returns of that trials,
Yes.
so in your country, what kind of insight from that education?
Sorry, what kind of?
Entrepreneur education, you just started out.
Right.
So what
Not
kind?
enough. That's
Not
why
enough.
we're pushing very hard. Not enough.
Not much
We
data.
traditionally we want to work for multinationals. We want to work for the government. Safer, right? Safer. But in a disruptive economy, right, where everybody is disrupting, we say it's not necessary. It must always be the proven path of working for other people. So the entrepreneur is start up your own company, start it up, and regain the entrepreneur's spirit.
It's very inspiring.
Yeah.
Very inspiring explorations. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you? Do you have the kind of programs, entrepreneurship? In Silicon Valley, maybe
No,
you have
don't.
your own DNA.
No, not at Stanford. Probably, I mean, very similar approaches actually. Probably our most well-known incubator is called StartX. That's also developed from the university, and it allows students to take advantage of services and programs and access to funding, etc. In Silicon Valley, there are lots of incubators all around that are outside of campus, but within the university, there are a few programs like startups, the StartX, that provide that level of coaching and support for students to do entrepreneurship and to try that. What I would say is that what's been a recent trend that's at Stanford, beyond just entrepreneurship and starting startups, because those tend to happen naturally in that environment, we've seen a rise in social entrepreneurship in the last few years. So entrepreneurship for the greater good in the .org world. So this is so we're starting to see more nonprofits develop with the same level of tenacity and entrepreneurial spirit and work. Funding looks different, but they are able to get funding. And you know the equity is not the same, and the success is measured in different ways. But there is tremendous support for that, because with what we're trying to do at Stanford is to, you know, although all these innovations are coming out of the school and all of and we're proud of all of the achievements, we also don't want to be known as the university. That's not the brand that we're trying to be, that, you know, come to Stanford and then try a few startups and then become a millionaire. That is not the purpose of the university. That's not why it was founded. So what we're trying to do is really live up to the expectation that we want to leverage this great brand in order to have an impact on the global community. And that's been really fascinating trend to watch in the last few years, is the rise of social entrepreneurship. And we have the Center for Public Service at Stanford that does a tremendous job at supporting students, at exposing them to funding, to mentors, and providing support to allow students to come up with some amazing new organizations that are having global impacts.
Okay. Thank you for your sincere answers, and it was really helpful for us.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I would love to ask a question. Do we have time if I can ask her a question?
Just one or two. Okay.
One or two, and we have to go. I would love, because you provided an amazing presentation,
Thank you.
and the entire time I'm thinking, oh, I have a million questions,
Okay.
but I'll
Just
stick
one.
to one
Okay, strong.
or two. So the chart that you presented of the number of students graduating from universities in Korea compared to the numbers of jobs that are available to them, or preferred jobs as you called it.
Okay.
Can you sort of talk to us a little bit about why that level of why is that difference? Is it because of the economy that the economy is limited in certain industries and just the jobs don't exist? Although from the outside it's looking like the economy in Korea is quite strong. Or is it the expectations of students that need to be changed? Or is it in the level of preparation? Although you also provided a chart that you said that with more resources in career development being invested in universities, there was no significant change between 2008 and 2015. So that tells me that even with more preparation, there is no difference. So I'm trying to understand, what, in your opinion, what is the problem that's creating this?
See, in Korea, is in early 1960, the GDP per capita is just $100, $100 US, right? So right now it's almost 30,000 US. So it's we experience a very rapid expansion and development, growth of economy, right? But still, it's a very short time to develop the jobs, occupations. The number of occupations in Korea, just roughly, we think it's just half. In terms of number of occupations, it's just half of that. Say in the States, it's 40,000 occupations. In Korea, it's just 20,000. See, it means that in Korea, in terms of jobs, in terms of occupations, it is not developed yet. Okay, so we didn't have time to develop continuously, even though the economy itself is not bad, it's quite good. But see, that occupational jobs should be developed according to many other conditions and context, right? So we have to go a long way to go to develop the jobs itself. Okay, so we have there will be more differentiated jobs. So there will be more the jobs, the number of jobs will be increased in the future.
Also diversity.
Yeah. First of all, and also, but right now, recently we just experienced the jobless growth globally, right? So it's get together. So that in the unique situation of Korea, as well as global trend of jobless growth, together, it's we have that difficult situation in terms of number of a good job or decent job or preferred jobs. And see, almost 80% of high school graduates go into college in Korea, okay? And almost no dropout rate in high school level, okay? So there's almost no, I say maybe 90% all age cohort graduate get high school graduation, and then they go. 80% of them go on to college. Okay, it's a big number of students go to college. So once they get to college education, they get a degree, college degree, bachelor degree. They don't want to go anywhere. They want to go to the preferred job, and they deserve. They spend a lot of time and a lot of money, a lot of energy. So I think it's natural for them to try to find out good job. Rather than any job, right?
In addition to that, from my experience for sophomores, they want to, if I can make an analogy, they want to get a job all from Google. they don't want to go on other companies because they know Google is the best, and we want to go all to Google. If I cannot get a job this year, they will try again next year, another years.
And also in Korea, the structure is very heavily depending on the big company like Jabil, see, Samsung and Hyundai. These are the conglomerates. It's very good companies, and they have a lot of employees, and the salaries are quite very good. But amongst say that 25 million jobs, only they have less than 10% of jobs.
Salary gap is another.
So the big disparity in terms of labor market, we can say that your labor market, okay, small number of good jobs, large number of bad jobs. So that's why it's from as educators, I'm quite pessimistic about to solve that employment problem. It can be solved. It cannot be solved by education alone. Okay. So that first of all, jobs should be created by industry and economy rather than education itself. So in terms of long-term outcome, we educators, college and university can do something to educate them to have the competencies, strength skills, and job skills. But we can't guarantee that they can get good jobs. That's beyond our responsibility. That's my interpretation.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's an issue of expectations, and also an issue of the economy and how it's going to
Structure
grow.
is different, right?
And the issue of entrepreneurship. I think if with more entrepreneurship, there will be more opportunities in the future. So that helps me understand better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we wish we could have more time, but it's time to finish,
Wrap up.
right? Wrap
Yeah,
up.
wrap up.
Okay. I'd like to close that my compliment that you brought up the social entrepreneurship. Okay, social responsibility of the university or the education. So nowadays in Korea, social entrepreneurship is very important. Okay, it's good for economy, but more better than our societal development. So we will talk later on social entrepreneurship again. Okay. Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
For all your nice presentation and your discussion. I'm sorry to answer all the questions, but since we do have your email address, we can send it to you, the questions. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
감사합니다.
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 감사합니다.